big news coming out. Our own Matt Zenitz being able to confirm, or being first reporting, and we are waiting the official confirmation from the University of Michigan. Bryce Underwood will be named Michigan's starter to start the season. DK, what do we make of this development as the Wolverines prepare for the 2025 season?
I'm mildly surprised, but I thought Mikey Keene would get a better look, but he missed all spring with the injury, so he wasn't really able to compete. And Michigan's deciding to, you know what, let's roll out there. I mean, it's kind of like when you have a number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, you don't really get the luxury of sitting them anymore, having that sort of redshirt year. And I think you're seeing kind of the same thing unfold in college with the amount of money that they're making. Teams are like, all right, we're going to roll him out there, and we'll see if he's ready. If he is, great. If not, we'll kind of work our way through it. I think it could be bumpy, but I think you'll see a heavy dose of his legs and the run game from Michigan to try to give him some support. But I think if you're a Michigan fan, this is exactly what you wanted. This is what you paid the big bucks for, so you're going to get to see it week 1.
I mean, we'll see if Sherrone Moore and that staff are in his bag with Bryce Underwood here. Like, I think there's a chance they could be. A lot of Michigan fans on Twitter think that Michigan's defense will be better than it was last year. And I think you have to allow for that possibility. It could be. They did have some upheaval in the secondary last year. Remember, Rod Moore got hurt. Will Johnson only played like half a season. It's very possible that maybe this defense is better than it was last year. I also think you have to allow that, look, Ohio State was kind of a mess when it came to its offensive line when they played Michigan last year. Day sort of hinted at in our interview that like they had some changes they could make. Maybe they should have gone to those changes earlier than they did in that game against Michigan. And they played an Alabama team that was kind of a mess down the stretch last year. I know Oklahoma also pummeled those guys, much like Michigan did in that bowl game. So I do think that there is a chance that Michigan is better this year than they were last year. Maybe the defense is way better. But I do have some concerns about some offensive line injuries they've already had. I have some concerns. Did they upgrade the receiver room enough? Maybe there's some in-house talent that is better than we think. And to Chip's point, I know he's been taking a lot of crap for this on Twitter, but ultimately, I do think you need Bryce Underwood to have one of the better true freshman seasons that you've ever had if you want to go well over your win total, if you want to make the college football playoff, which is obviously probably the bottom goal for a program like Michigan. I think he has to be pretty damn good for this to work.
I think the best argument for possible improvement on the Michigan defense, despite the personnel losses, is that as the season went along, Wink Martindale had a better idea of what works in college and what doesn't. And I think that what they were doing started to make far more sense later in the year. And I think that, going into year 2 is a reason to think there's going to be a jump. As for Underwood, it's strange because it wasn't that long ago where 5-star true freshman starting was all that crazy. I feel like COVID kind of jiggered our brains in the way that we think about it, because every single team that was contending would just go out and get the veteran quarterback in the portal. And now that those guys aren't really existing, we're going back to like the Trevor Lawrence and the Justin Fields and those guys who are all starting early. So I do think that if you're Michigan, you're looking at your situation. Like I originally thought Mikey Keene would be the starter and they would work Underwood in just like they did with McNamara and McCarthy a few years ago. Clearly that's not what they're doing now. And I think that this is kind of like a value play, I guess, might be the best way to think about it, because if Michigan doesn't win the Big Ten or get to the playoff this year, I don't think it'll be looked at as a disaster. Like, obviously that's what their goal is, but I think that they're figuring they could buy a season with Underwood gaining experience, because if he's as good as he is, he's not going to be there longer than 3 years anyway. So why have him sit on the sidelines for one of the 3 years you're going to have him? Let him get that experience. So that way next year, maybe when you feel like you're better positioned to truly compete for, Big Ten titles and playoff titles again, he's got that kind of those reps under his belt. So it'll be interesting to see. And yeah, if he's the dude he has the potential to be right away, they're going to be very good. And if he's not, well, then it'll probably be somewhat similar to last year.
Yeah, Davis Warren suffered the knee injury at the end of last season, sort of like limited him along the way. We mentioned Mikey Keene was not 100% to go, couldn't play in the spring, not as much in fall camp as well. But I'm going to come back to when CJ Carter news broke, you went right there. And I got to give credit to our colleague, Chris Hummer. I was doing a CBS Sports HQ segment with him. We were talking about this quarterback battle 2 weeks ago. And he said, well, he said on air, like I mentioned something about Mikey Keene maybe being the starter, working Bryce Underwood. And Chris said, he said, like, Well, there's about 10 million reasons why I think that a lot of people want to see Bryce Underwood be the QB1 out there. But does this add another chapter to, in every quarterback battle, the higher paid quarterback, for the most part, has ended up stepping into those QB1 duties? Or are you putting the other factors as much of a part of this decision as well?
I think it's a factor. I don't know if it's the driving factor here. Mikey Keene was hurt, and Mikey Keene's like just not some amazing football player. I just think he was.
Hey, listen, I'll give Mikey Keene jag.
Yeah, he's a jag.
Did you watch Fresno State on Saturday? I bet you they still wish they had Mikey Keene.
Hey,
Stanford wishes they had Mikey Keene.
Dude, Stanford wishes they had a lot.
Stanford will take Danny now.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, there's an argument to be made that Ben was the third worst quarterback currently on the sideline or in the booth during that game for Stanford.
But EJ was good on script, right? Like that, they had that first drive and they were ready to go, and then Kansas's defense settled down. They got off script, and it was night from there. But anyway, we'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, I think Underwood was likely to win this job. Obviously, Sam Webb on Summer School said as much. He said, like, I definitely think it's Underwood, and probably more like just not even if, but when, just he's going to win it. But obviously, with Keene being hurt, I don't think Keene was a real option to win the job with the injury. So now you could also argue that's just Underwood winning this by default, which is possible.
6'4", 220 some odd pounds, just like go ahead.
Last year, collectively as a group, they had 12 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 1,600 yards passing.
That was horrible.
Like, it can't get worse, can it? Like, that's why I wonder if you roll out Bryce Underwood. You just say, here we go. Like, we can manage around him. He's a better runner, so we can give you some of the run game. But if you can just get 2,500, what did Dylan Raiola have last year? Like, Dylan might be a better passer and was maybe closer, but I think if you get a year like Dylan Raiola had at Nebraska, you're happy. You're doing jumping jacks.
Yeah.
For a freshman, for a true freshman,
right.
On campus. Like and then year two, that's when you sort of get that big jump, and then you kind of what we're talking about, it's kind of a developmental year.
Dylan was 13 and 11 for about 7 yards an attempt. So it's not like he was fantastic, but he was better than what Michigan had.
Correct. Right. Yeah, he was right there at the Mendoza line for the most part when we talk about that. So Bryce Underwood takes over as Michigan's starting quarterback. Any other starting quarterback or roster news that we need to get to before we start to go under the hood for a further review?
Robbie Ashford.
Oh, at Wake. That's right.
Anybody? Is anybody switching their Kentucky win total based on Zach Calzada?
Big Zach.
Yeah.
Only if I think the only way you could switch it is down if you think that this was really a battle.